Banned book from the Bible. The dark mystery of Mary Magdalene revealed. Imagine if, for centuries, one of Christianity's greatest secrets had been hidden. A secret so powerful it could forever change the way we view the history of faith. Now, what if I told you that this secret has a name, and that it was deliberately erased from Scripture? The figure of Mary Magdalene has always been shrouded in mystery, but what few people know is that her true story was silenced. Ancient documents suggest she wasn't just a follower of Jesus, but someone with a much deeper and more significant role. A role that could have altered the very destiny of the church, and this secret is recorded in a book. A gospel that was banned, concealed, and discredited by those who wanted to shape history to fit their own narrative. But what exactly did this book say? What made it such a threat? To understand that, we need to take a step back and explore the origins of this lost gospel. Few have ever heard of it, but yes, it exists. A gospel attributed to Mary Magdalene herself. A manuscript that was excluded from the Bible and kept in the shadows for centuries. Discovered in 1896, the Gospel of Mary offers a completely different perspective from the one we've been taught. It reveals hidden teachings, spiritual visions, and a far more intimate relationship between Mary Magdalene and Jesus than has ever been officially acknowledged. But the burning question is, why was this gospel rejected? Who decided it shouldn't be part of the Bible we know today? The answer takes us back to a time of intense conflict within the early church. A time when different factions fought to determine which version of Christ's story would be preserved and which would be erased forever. And from this conflict emerges the most intriguing question of all. Who was Mary Magdalene really? And why was her image distorted over the centuries? Traditional history teaches us that Mary Magdalene was a repentant sinner, a prostitute who found redemption at Jesus' feet. But what if that version was a later invention? What if, in reality, Mary Magdalene held a much more central and powerful role within Christ's movement? Some evidence suggests she wasn't just part of Jesus' inner circle, but that she also received secret teachings from him, teachings considered dangerous to the structure of the church that would later be established. But if Mary Magdalene was so important, why was her story altered? Who had something to gain by erasing her from the official narrative? To find that answer, we must look closely at a crucial detail within the Gospel of Mary, her relationship with Jesus. And the clues left in this manuscript are, at the very least, unsettling. Before we go on, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, because in the upcoming videos, we're diving even deeper into mysteries you won't want to miss. 1 of the most controversial passages in the Gospel of Mary suggests that Jesus treated her differently from the other disciples. At one key moment, Peter questions why Jesus seemed to trust her more than the rest. But why did that bother Peter so much? Other apocryphal Gospels, like the Gospel of Philip, go even further. One passage in particular mentions that Jesus kissed her often on the mouth, raising one of the most hotly debated questions among scholars. Was Mary Magdalene merely a devoted disciple, or was there something more between her and Jesus? If that possibility is true, it could radically change everything. We think we know about the figure of Christ, but this story doesn't end there. Because this secret relationship wasn't just a controversial detail. It was the spark that ignited internal conflict among Jesus' followers, a conflict that would forever shape the future of the church. The Gospel of Mary not only suggests that Mary Magdalene held a privileged position among the disciples, but also contains teachings of Jesus that appear nowhere else. In this text, Jesus reveals spiritual secrets directly to Mary, teaching her about the true nature of the soul and the universe. This means that Mary Magdalene wasn't just a follower. She was a spiritual leader, with knowledge that, according to the Gospel itself, the other disciples did not possess. But why is this idea so disturbing? If this Gospel had been accepted as part of the Bible, it could have completely changed how Christianity is understood. After all, it would mean that Jesus shared his deepest teachings not only with the 12 apostles, but also with Mary Magdalene, and perhaps in an even deeper way. So, had you ever heard of this before? Drop a comment and let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And this is where the real problem begins. This revelation caused a rift among Jesus' followers, a conflict that becomes evident in a direct clash between Mary Magdalene and one of the most influential disciples, Peter. The apocryphal texts reveal something surprising. Peter and Mary were often in conflict. In several passages from the Gospel of Mary, Peter questions why Jesus would give special teachings to her, even suggesting that it was impossible for a woman to possess such divine knowledge. The tension between them was clear, and it wasn't just about faith, it was about power. Peter represented the traditional view that men should lead Jesus' movement. Mary Magdalene, on the other hand, represented something more radical, a spiritual vision that didn't depend on male hierarchy. And this dispute didn't end there. It was only the beginning of a process that would later define the direction of the church and lead to Mary Magdalene's exclusion from the official scriptures. But what if that dispute had never happened? Would the history of Christianity be completely different today? And is there an even deeper secret behind this conflict? Well, some theories suggest that Mary Magdalene wasn't just a special disciple, but actually Jesus' wife. That's without a doubt one of the most controversial ideas ever proposed about the life of Jesus. Could it really be that he and Mary were married? Some scholars believe so, and claim there are hidden clues in both the canonical and apocryphal texts that support this theory. In the Gospel of Philip, there's a passage that refers to Mary Magdalene as Jesus' companion, a term that, in Aramaic, can also mean wife. And then there's the mention of Jesus kissing her, a detail that suggests a level of intimacy unlikely between a teacher and a follower. If Jesus and Mary Magdalene were indeed married, it would completely overturn traditional Christian theology. It would mean that Jesus not only had a romantic relationship, but possibly a family line that continued on. This leads to an even bolder theory, that after the crucifixion, Mary Magdalene fled, carrying with her a secret that could shake the foundations of the world. In 1945, a group of Egyptian farmers made a discovery that would forever change the study of early Christianity. In a cave near the town of Nag Hammadi, they unearthed a collection of ancient manuscripts, now known as the Gnostic Gospels. Among these texts, Mary Magdalene appears frequently, always portrayed as someone with secret knowledge, a spiritually enlightened figure who grasped truths the other disciples could not. But what these Gnostic Gospels reveal is even more astounding. The idea that salvation didn't depend on the church or on any formal religious system, but on personal knowledge and inner spiritual awakening. This was a radically different vision from the one the church would later establish. And maybe that's exactly why these texts were banned. But what happened to Mary Magdalene after the crucifixion? Where did she go? And could there still be hidden clues about her true fate? Let's keep going, but first, have you hit the like button yet? If you're enjoying this content, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If Mary Magdalene played such an important role in the early days of Christianity, why was her story distorted? How did she go from being a close disciple of Jesus to the image of a repentant sinner? The answer may lie in the process of building the church as an institution. In the 4th century, Emperor Constantine convened the Council of Nicaea, a pivotal event that determined which texts would be considered sacred and which would be cast aside. The apocryphal Gospels, including the Gospel of Mary, were rejected and banned. But that wasn't the end of it. Centuries later, in the year 591, Pope Gregory I made an official statement linking Mary Magdalene to the sinful woman mentioned in the Gospel of Luke. This historical error was repeated for hundreds of years, solidifying her image as a former prostitute and erasing any idea that she may have been a spiritual leader. But why was it so important to hide Mary Magdalene's true role? And what if, in reality, she represented a threat to the structure the church was trying to build? That possibility brings us to another question. Did Mary Magdalene continue spreading Jesus' teachings in secret, away from the church's control? If the church tried to erase Mary Magdalene from history, does that mean her teachings are lost forever? Or could there be a secret legacy, quietly preserved throughout the centuries. Some legends claim that Mary Magdalene fled to southern France after the crucifixion of Jesus. There, she supposedly continued her spiritual mission, sharing teachings that didn't align with official church doctrine. And here's where things get even more intriguing. Certain groups and secret societies throughout history have claimed to guard the lost knowledge of Mary Magdalene. Among them, the Cathars, a medieval Christian movement labeled heretical by the church, and even the Knights Templar, who, according to some theories, protected secrets tied to the bloodline of Jesus. If all this is true, it would mean the official story of Christianity might be incomplete. But that leads us to an even deeper question. Why was it all hidden? Who really benefited from Mary Magdalene's exclusion? The answer might lie in the kind of impact this revelation could have on today's world. If Mary Magdalene was that close to Jesus, if she was a spiritual leader, and if her gospel contained deep teachings, then why was all of it deliberately erased? It could come down to control. Throughout history, the church solidified its authority by centralizing faith within a hierarchical system, one where only certain leaders had the power to interpret the teachings of Jesus. If Mary Magdalene had been recognized as a great spiritual teacher, it could have given rise to a very different form of Christianity, one where the power was not in the hands of the church, but in personal, direct experiences of spirituality. Moreover, if the theory that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married were ever confirmed, it would challenge one of the foundational ideas of traditional Christianity, that Jesus lived a fully celibate life and had no descendants. But will we ever have concrete proof of all this? What else might be hidden between the lines of the official story? And more importantly, what does all of this mean for us today? If all this is true, what does it say about modern Christianity? Have we spent centuries believing only a portion of the real story, more than a religious mystery? The case of Mary Magdalene makes us reflect on the power of narrative and how history can be shaped by those who write it. If her true story was erased, how many other voices and teachings have been silenced throughout the centuries? Maybe we'll never know the full truth. But one thing is clear. The Apocryphal Gospels, the Nag Hammadi Manuscripts, and the clues scattered through time show us there's still so much more to discover. And now I ask you, if you had access to knowledge that could change everything you believe, would you be ready to accept it? Thanks for watching all the way through. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss more amazing content like this.